Good afternoon, everybody. We're just waiting for some folk to join, so we'll just wait for a few more minutes before we kick off. My name's Jeremy Campbell, so thank you for those folk who've already joined us. Okay, just give it a few more minutes. We've got some people joining us. Please do feel free during the session today to post any questions that you have for me. Okay, a few more minutes and we'll get going. Oops. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you very much indeed for taking your time to join the webinar this afternoon. My name is Jeremy Campbell. I am the CEO of an organization called the Black Isle Group. And this afternoon, we're going to tackle the question of, does learning development actually work? Does it deliver the results and have the impact that we're looking for our organizations? Or is learning development a waste of time, a waste of energy, and therefore a waste of money to organizations? Many forms of traditional learning development often have three main elements to it, which I would argue have challenges in terms of the impact that they can have on organizations. And the first part of that is overstuffed content. And there's some amazing content out there, there's some amazing providers in the L&D workspace. But often, in our experience, we see a lot of organizations bringing in folk who are the 60 slide workshop folk who basically bombard people with a huge amount of content. And often what we know about learning and the way that we actually absorb information is it's too much in too short a period of time. The second part, which is often the challenge we see, is how many of those organizations are able to put the learning into action. That's really the most important part. And it's great to rock up to a workshop, have a great time, feel good about yourself in terms of getting out of the office for the day. But actually, how much of that is really put into the workplace? And I don't know about anyone else. I love and I've always loved a workshop, but I'm one of the most eager people ever to go to a workshop. But I, like many, have got folders at home, which at the back of the folder has a piece of paper that says things I'm going to do differently on Monday. And sadly, to this day, I still never have done any of those things. Why? It's not because I don't want to do it. It's because life takes over, and we've got a million things to put into place. We've never lived in an age more of information coming at us. And I don't know if the folk on the call have read that brilliant book by James Clear in Atomic Habits. He talks in that about we don't rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our system. And often we don't have a system in place following a workshop or a residential training course that puts the learning into action. And I'm going to show you something that we developed at Black Isle that hopefully will resonate in terms of trying to put people through a process of actually practicing and putting things into place. And then the last element, which often is the case that we see, and we see this quite a lot, is you go on the workshop and it's a little bit of, good luck. I hope that goes well, but you never hear from the provider again. And we've put a process into place that will help people in embedding the learning, in putting what you've learned into practice and therefore having the impact on the organization. Yet the stats actually are not particularly good in terms of what we're spending and getting the return on investment. In 2022, we spent something in the region of £42 billion on learning development. I think in 23, the numbers have gone up to over £50 billion alone on all forms of training. Yet only 12%, Harvard Business Review um, survey, only 12% of people actually put the learning into action. And one of the reasons that we struggle so much is the Ebbinghaus learning curve or forgetting curve, which basically states that after 7 days, you lose and forget 75% of what you've learned. So this time next week, I will be literally a distant memory of what you were doing this time last week. You would have forgotten 75% of what um, we've been talking about today. And one of the reasons for that is what we do is the way that we learn is we learn from learn, do, reflect, repeat. I'm just trying to click my slide on there. Which is basically the way that the brain works. So we don't learn from reading something. In fact, what we do is we want to put those thoughts into action straight away. So what tends to happen is we do something, we we put it into action, we do something, we put it into action, we put it into action into practice, and you'll see that in a minute. This is a great slide in terms of the actual simple retention of what we do. And as you can see at the bottom end, from lecture to reading, it's only something in the region of 5 to 10%. So what that's really saying is we only retain 5 to 10% of anything that we've learned in a lecture. So then think about it from an audio visual point of view. So online learning tools, fantastic quality of content. But again, we're only likely to retain 25 to 30% of that content. And then it goes all the way up to actually doing. So as you can see, putting it into practice can be as much as 75%. And then actually immediate use is what all the behavioral science will say, that you will retain up to 90%. In a recent poll we put out onto LinkedIn, the poll, we got over, I think, 300 people were polled and voted, and 70% of people basically said that the immediate use or putting it into action straight following a workshop was the way that people learnt most. So what's the solution to this? Because this is an age-old problem of simply going to a workshop or finding some content and then putting it into practice. Well, we see it as a three-pronged attack. And what we see is the first part of that is the experimental workshops. What we believe is important is you learn by doing, you put things into place. So famously, we have a workshop called Clarity, Brevity, Impact, which is around communication skills. And we put people through their paces in the workshop in a very supportive and in a very encouraging manner, but we get people to present. It's not about a slide to say, this is how you present. We actually encourage people to do that. We put them under a little pressure. We put them in front of cameras. Why do we do that? Because that's how we learn. The real gold in terms of learning development is just slightly outside our comfort zone in terms of the circle. It's not inside the circle. It's not too far outside of the circle. That's when we feel really anxious and we don't learn. But it's good to push ourselves in these scenarios. The second part is practice. If you think about any skill that you're trying to master, whether that's playing the guitar, whether that's learning a language, whether that's being a better presenter, whether that's being a better communicator. You have to practice. The best people put the practice in place and they become fanatical about doing the practice. And what we've designed is a platform which will nudge you to take actions on a daily basis. Because what we know, it's the consistency of those actions that delivers the result. Sadly, I think we all want, and that's why 80% of all New Year's resolutions don't work or fail after the third week in February, is because we don't put a plan into place. What we want is the result. We want to lose a bit of weight. We want to feel better about ourselves, but we don't really want to do the work in order to be able to get it. And then the third part, um, we think of the jigsaw is really about how do you follow up? How do you support people? Why do we go and see a personal trainer? The reason we see a personal trainer is not that we don't know how to get fit, is that we want to be held accountable because I want to be accountable for something that I want to deliver. And what we provide within our framework and within our platform is a coach chat facility. It's not an AI bot, it's real people, it's real qualified coaches who will talk to you about putting the practice into action. And more importantly, we ask a series of questions of each week in a journal of what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, and more importantly, what can we do to try and help you? We also house all of our content, so all the content from our courses is housed within Nudge. You can build up streaks. You can, as I said, chat to a coach, and you can reflect every week in terms of your own personal development journey. It's an incredibly powerful way of when a workshop finishes from we see it as the start of the journey, not the end of the journey. So it's a slightly different approach. So why and how do we learn then? So think about a really good example is if anyone on the call is blessed with children, what you'll find and what you'll see is when you teach the kids how to ride a bike, what tends to happen is we don't give them a manual of slides and say, hey, this is how you ride a bike. You put them on the bike, you get them to try, they inevitably fall off, you put them back on the bike, they fall off, you put them back on the bike. And it's trial and error. That's how we learn. And it's no different in the corporate um, um, landscape. What tends to happen is the best lessons often are the lessons when we're going through the hardest time. And that's where we learn the most, and hence why we encourage people to put things into practice. So, experiential learning is all about um, putting what you've learned into the workshop into practice. And then it's all about small everyday actions. And what we learn from working with Olympians is it's always seemed to be very glamorous that they go for a gold medal or they win a gold medal. But actually, when you break it down into what they actually do, is pretty dull. Daily, they take very small actions. They get obsessive about the stretching, about the skill training, about their diet, about the psychology, about all of the things that they know if they do the small everyday actions build up to winning the gold medal. And it's obviously very prevalent. We've got the Olympics coming, but they don't talk about the end goal. They just focus on the process. It's the Brailsford mantra. Don't worry about the end goal, just get obsessive about the small everyday actions. And it's no different in learning any skill in the workplace. We also know that by not following up and not supporting, that we can increase the return on investment by up to 88% by providing a coach. And sadly, what we all want is we'd love to believe that we set a learning goal and it's a straight line to get there. And of course, the reality of that is absolutely not the case at all. It takes very much an up and down and a round and about. And really, what you want is somebody to come back to and say, do you know, it's just not working at this moment in time. And here's why it's not working. And that's where a really good coach comes in. You know, I've had a crap week at home, had a crap week in business. You know, I just need to dust myself down and go again. And that's where a really good coach will say, well, the context is you've been at this for 4 weeks, you've had 3 really good weeks, one crap week. Let's get back on it on Monday. And I'm there to try and help. And we find this also an enormous help to people in organizations when things are not going well. It's not about, I've just nailed a presentation. What it's about is when you don't nail it or you haven't landed the point that you've been trying to make in communications. So, what does the app look like? It's it's a it's on mobile. It's on desktop. It has, as I said, all of the features of learning resources. It's got personal nudges. So you, in effect, set a reminder and a notification that comes to you whenever you set. We know, again, with behavioral science, that if you say you're going to do something and when you're going to do it, you increase your chances by 33% of doing it. So rather than saying, I'm going to the gym next week, if you say you're going Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 o'clock, and I'm going to do 30 minutes of cardio, just increase your chances by 30 odd percent of actually doing it. It's the same principle within nudge. So it just nudges you to take the action. You can also look at your streaks, so you can feel where you're at. And we use it within teams as well. We're on team reporting, and this is what the coach chat facility looks like. So very easy access to a coach. It's not something that's really cumbersome. It's immediate feedback from a coach, and the reflections we find, in effect, journaling, are very, very useful. So what's really gone well this week? We're all very good at plowing through a week, getting loads of stuff at us. We're not always good at actually reflecting on what's gone well in that particular week. We've got a comms package in there, so we're able to send out communications to people to invite them to the courses. And then we've got a really cool reporting suite, which shows the people coming out off a workshop, how many actions they've put into place, and then more importantly, what the results been. So what's the impact? So we can actually measure the impact of the workshop. Of course, we do our good old NPS in terms of how good the quality of the workshop is. But what we're more interested in is what's the activity people have been taking on the back of the workshop. So that's it. That's the end of the webinar. We'll open up to questions. Call of action is, if anyone's interested in seeing the tech, please message me uh, either directly. You can contact me at jeremy@blackislegroup.com. Be really happy to show you the tech. Be really happy to talk to you about the different workshops that we can provide and obviously what your learning development needs are. But just in summary, there's 3 elements we feel that are absolutely critical to embedding the learning. The first one is experiential learning, get people to do things. People learn by doing as opposed to a set of slides. Second thing is, how do you put that into practice? How do you get that consistency of the actions? It's really tough to do. And then how do you support people in delivering the consistency of those actions? So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to ask any questions. Wayne, thank you so much. Loving this. You're a fine man, Mr. Clark. Thank you for that. Are there any questions that I can answer on the webinar before we close? Okay, just waiting to see if we've got any questions coming. Okay. All right. So, oh, there's one coming in, which is thank you, interesting webinar. Appreciate that. Um, all right. I'm going to close the webinar. Please contact me. You can contact me directly. I'd love to chat to anybody and hear what your views are. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you very much.